Hey everybody, we are live. Glade Sessions in the house. Glade, how was your 4th of July?
4th of July for me was actually really quiet.
What'd you do?
Um,
Did you stay home or did you go out and visit family or what?
um, my wife ended up going back out to the Wasatch Front to help tend new grandson, and I ended up staying home and took care of bees for a day, and then I actually went to the mountain and stayed at the cabin for a couple of days just by myself, quiet, nobody around.
Hey, that sounds like a perfect 4th. Nice job. Um, so we're gonna dive in. We'll dive in to get to know Glade a little bit, ask him about his channel, and we're gonna talk about July beekeeping today. But let's kind of set the stage here for those that are trickling in here. Be engaged on the chat. We'll engage with you. We'd love to hear from you. Post questions, comments. Let us know how your beekeeping is going this season and in July. And then at the end of the live stream, we've got our friends over at Apis Tactical. They're kind of sponsoring the live stream for us. We're giving away another hive tool. These are robust, sturdy, great, well-built hive tools. So we'll do hashtag Hive Tool in the chat, so throw that in there if you're interested in winning one, and we'll give that away at the end of the chat. Welcome, Redfish. What's up? Roll Tide. Go Cougs. Redfish. Jack and Danae up in Wyoming. I Glade was up in Idaho/Wyoming, right on the border in Teton Valley at the forest. So I was up in Jack and Danae's. I think Jack and Danae are from Wyoming. So I was up in Teton Valley on my channel. Actually, I broke off from beekeeping content and I posted about one of my hikes, Devil's Staircase. Just right, it's beautiful, right at the base of the Tetons. Man, what a cool country we live in. So anyway, Wyoming is beautiful. I'd live there in a minute if my wife would let me. But she thinks that pickleball only exists in Utah for some reason. I don't know.
And there's parts of Wyoming that are just gorgeous, but my wife lived in Green River for a while. I'll never live in Wyoming.
Come
the
on,
wind,
Green River is great. I love Green River.
the wind never stops blowing there,
Oh, okay.
ever. Uh,
Fair enough.
and all the times that I visited, I don't think I was there ever that it didn't blow. Usually pretty nice until about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then the wind started to blow.
Yeah,
And it
okay.
and it blew all day long.
Well, yeah. Uh, Wind isn't great. Like I'm with you there. Well, let's jump in. Glade, you joined. Oh, I better say this. Bracken got called into work. So Barker's Bees and Honey, he's out. We wish him well at work, so he couldn't be here. I was sweating a little bit, and thankfully Glade was able to join. Glade, you joined us before, but tell us once again. Tell us about your um, beekeeping channel, what you're up to, etc.
Um, I'm Glade Sessions. I've been keeping bees since 2015, and when yeah, we have cows and wind up in there. That's probably true. Um, I believe that, Jack and Danae. Um, I started in 2015. I had 2 hives, lost them both, but I was hooked, like hook, line, and sinker. I was forever lost in bees, and so I went my first year from 2 to 20. Not the smartest thing to do. I don't recommend it. Um, and After I'd been keeping bees for a couple of years, people started asking me questions, and I just went, "Hey, I'm not the expert here, but I've been able to keep my bees alive, so here's what I'm doing." And that's just kind of how I started. I now teach classes, and somebody said you should start a YouTube channel, and I said, "Well, I don't know." But I last year I was it last year? I think it was last year. Maybe it was the year before, end of the year before I started. And I keep about somewhere between 25 and about 45 hives most of the year. I'm usually running in the 35 range. I'll make up a bunch of nukes actually right now and overwinter them and then sell them off in the spring. But I'm in northeastern Utah. So Roosevelt, we're 60 miles south of the Wyoming border and 60 miles west of the Colorado border. So we get a different climate than where Jed's at out there on the Wasatch Front. You're in Orem, right?
That's right.
So we get a little different climate out here. We tend to be hotter and drier than the Wasatch Front. And with Bracken, he's north of you. He's kind of on the north end of Utah. He gets even yet a little different climate. I think we'll kind of get into that. That even though we're all in Utah, we don't have the same beekeeping, timing, plants. Nothing's quite the same.
Yeah, we've this. I wouldn't call it three different climates, completely different climates, but they are different, and the
Yeah.
landscapes of where we are is varied substantially.
Quite a bit.
So Glade is being very humble here. Just before we jump into July beekeeping, Glade is a bit of a superstar beekeeper in Utah. He's kind of led different organizations. He teaches and has taught classes, and he's a go-to non-commercial. So you could categorize yourself as a sideliner, probably.
Yeah, small sideliner. I'm going to grow that a little bit, but not tons. I wouldn't mind going to about 100 hives, but
you're probably a little too busy to go to 100 hives yet.
Yeah,
Maybe soon.
just yeah. Time's coming. Big announcement coming in a few months.
Let's. I don't know if this is Jace or JC, but this is a great question, Glade. So let's say from Jace, I marked my queen today for the first time and put a little too much on her. Will it hurt her or no? This is an awesome question. You want to give it a shot, Glade?
Sure. First of all, you're not the first beekeeper to do that. Anybody that's marked a queen has done that. So you're no different than the rest of us. We've all put a little too much makeup on some of those queens. It kind of depends on where the extra paint went. If it kind of went down her back and towards her abdomen a little bit and on her wings, probably not a big deal. If it kind of went over her head and into her eyes, that might cause some issues. But the only way to find out with this one is just let her go back in the hive. They'll either clean her up a little bit and she'll be just fine, and then she'll be really easy to see because she's got a little extra paint on her. Or the bees, at the worst extreme, will decide something's wrong with her, and then they'll want to supersede her. But on her lower body, yeah, you're probably fine. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
And if they do, like Jace, one thing that you'll find is if they do supersede her, like the bees know what's going on, you'll find her. I had this happen this year. The bees kicked her out of the hive. I might have injured her when marking her. Like it was like a week after, or a couple weeks after, and they replaced her without skipping a beat, and the new queen is just kicking butt, just killing it. So. I don't know, Jace, I'm assuming you're a first-year beekeeper, first or second year. We worry about those type of things, and rightfully so. But Bracken's mentality seems to be like they're tougher than you think. They got this covered. Bracken has a queen right now. I saw in his video, I think it was this week, that's completely blue, and he did it on purpose. Like she is covered in blue, like this blue queen.
Yeah, they are tougher than you think, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. The only time that maybe gets her is if you get it all over her face or all over her head and her eyes and that. But
Yeah, they're largely pretty.
big blue. Yeah, I think that's what Bracken called her, was big blue.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, welcome to beekeeping, Jace. That's awesome, and welcome everybody. Thanks for jumping in the chat. Again, at the end of the live stream, we'll give away the beekeeping tool, so that we'll do hive tag or hashtag hive tool, but we'll do that at the end. Let's jump into July beekeeping a little bit here, Glade. Why is July so important in beekeeping?
Oh, this kind of, yeah, because July kind of sets the stage for next year. Believe it or not, if you're not thinking about how your hive's doing right now and going to go through winter, then they may not make it. What you do now sets them up for winter. And these next 2 months are really kind of critical. And most people kind of get a little lackadaisical in July and August, because they think, oh, for most people, the honey flow's over, the hard work's kind of done, let them go, let them do their thing. And but July and August is really when you set your hives up and get that hive ready to really perform the following year, especially if it's a nuke or a package that you've just started. Where they're at in July and August with food stores, with queen, and with their mites levels. If you get those three things right, they'll most likely make it through winter. And some people have a hard time doing that, or we just get lazy and it's too hot to go out there and check them. And I get it, but what you do now in the next couple of months will make or break next year for you.
Let's talk a little bit. Oh, we got Bracken in the house. Hold on.
Yeah, what's Bracken doing? Oh,
Bracken just couldn't stand it any longer. He was having FOMO.
Yeah, it's too hot out there.
Did you go out and there wasn't work to do, or are you just super fast?
I'm just super good at my job. Just kidding.
No, he just told them they don't need electricity for a while. I'll be back.
Yeah, I just says I got a bee chat to go to, so I'm not turning the power on until I'm done. So I'll be back.
Jace has a question here. I don't want to. Let's come back to it later. He's saying, I have one deep. Do I need honey supers for next year? Maybe we can answer that one in chat. But I want to. I want to talk a little bit on, Glade kind of set the stage for July beekeeping and what to watch for. Let's talk a little bit about the dearth for a minute and what we're seeing in each of our areas. And I want to hear what people in the chat, our listeners, are seeing in July regarding a dearth, if they have it, or what that looks like in their locations. I saw, we got people from Vermont and Colorado, etc. Glade, how would you define a dearth, first of all, just so everybody's aligned?
Any time period where the bees have no incoming resources. And we think, well, it's summer. They're out and about, they're out flying, they're out doing their thing. Of course there's resources coming in, but that's not always the case depending on where you live. And it can be very localized. You might be just in that right area where there's something kind of blooming most of the time. And I mean, you can look at my area back here, July and August, things are brown, they're drying up, it's hot, there's very little blooming. And so in Utah, depending on where you're at again, we have dearth in the middle of the summer. And that seems strange to most new beekeepers, that we would have a time in the summer where the bees don't have any resources to gather. But it is true. Winter, is by definition, a dearth. They have no incoming resources during the winter, and we get that. But dearths happen in the summer. They can happen in the spring. They can happen just about any time of the year. And we have to be aware of what's going on plant-wise in the area around our hives, and sometimes take appropriate action. And sometimes that means feeding. And I know, whatever your take is on feeding, my take is if the bees are hungry and they have no incoming resources, they need to be fed. If you have cows that they've eaten all the grass in the field, they got to be fed, right? There's no way around it.
We just had Gigi jump in. Love Gigi.
Hey, Gigi.
Can't have a productive live stream without Gigi in the house. So Bracken, I'd love to let's hear from you. What are signs of the dearth? Like, what do you see up in northern Utah that how you know a dearth is live?
I didn't hear a whole lot of what Glade said, so if I repeat myself, sorry. But
they'll listen to you. They won't listen to me.
Just dry. Like, I mean, I just watch the plants kind of around the trees that I know that bloom. There's a lot of alfalfa around right now that is blooming. But man, it's so freaking dry that I don't know if there's a whole lot of nectar in the plants. It's just, I kind of watch the wax production or the weight of the hives. If it comes in, it slows down. In the evenings, they're sitting more on the front step, bearding rather than out working. Because, I mean, it stays light till 9 o'clock here or whatever. When there's something going on, they fly till, at least I have noticed they fly pretty late. But I've noticed the last few evenings, there's still a fair amount of daylight, and I see a lot more bearding going on. So, there's not as many out working, and it's hot. Things are so dry that even if there is bloom, I don't think there's a lot of nectar being produced by the plant.
Right. Yeah. And that's where, your local area really makes a difference in that, 2 to 3 miles from your hive. If you've got a farmer that's irrigating his field, his alfalfa field, and he's not cutting it early, and so he's letting it bloom and it's getting purple out there on that field, then your bees right now may be making honey.
Yeah.
But if they're cutting that alfalfa right before it blooms, which is what a lot of them do, because the protein content's higher, then sometimes an alfalfa field isn't that great for you. Sometimes it can be really good. And I've had times where I've got a friend here that there's an alfalfa field just outside my house, and he keeps cutting it, right? And I keep telling him, hey, don't cut that. Just let it go for just a few days. And he keeps cutting it. And and then one day I said, don't cut that. And he said, oh, I can't cut it. I have to work for the next week. I'm on, it's his shift, and his shift was day shift instead of night shift. He said, I can't cut it. He says, I can't get to it. And I just rubbed my hands and started stacking supers. And I stacked supers. I had 2 hives in my yard, and they went from, I run all mediums, and they had 1 super on. 2 weeks later, they had 7 and 8 supers. It was incredible the amount of honey they brought in just about 10 days. I stacked 1 super and checked it like 3 days later, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they need another box. And I threw another box on, and 3 days later I threw another box on, and I'm like, okay, if you guys are going to do this, I'm just going to throw 2 at a time on. And I did, and they filled them up.
What month was that, Glade?
That was a couple of years ago. I think it's probably right now, second cutting of alfalfa. I think it was his second cutting.
It's interesting how that can work out. So we talked about, like Bracken earlier, Glade and I talked about how all three of us are in Utah, but we're in these locations that are probably 3 hours apart from each other.
Yeah.
And the climates might be similar, but there's enough variety that we're experiencing different things. So one of the things that I'm watching for, like right now, I see bees are hitting, I don't know if there's an official name, but I call it Russian sage. It's
Yeah,
that purple.
that's the official name.
Yeah, so Russian sage, the bees are hitting that so hard right now, and we've got a lot of it around. So
Well,
while
you
I see,
probably have more of that than I do, though, because of where you live. You know, it's because it does bloom and it's a decent looking plant. You know, a lot of people use it in their landscape, but I don't see near as much of that in my area. There's some, but not near as much as probably you see.
yeah, and that's the other. I'm trying to look up an image so people can see it, but that's
I can find one
I'll
while
put
you're
it up
talking.
here. I think I got it.
Oh,
The
yep.
So
Yep.
I'm in, as a backyard beekeeper, I'm in the suburbs, right? So I'm surrounded by homes, whatever, and people have planted this and other flowers. So I feel like the main nectar flow that we'll get from it for me in our area is the linden tree.
Which
But
is, has yours bloomed? Yours is
yep,
bloomed and done, right?
yep, hmm
See, mine's just barely finishing up. Some of the linden trees are still blooming. Um, we tend to run about 3 weeks behind Jed for plants, especially in the spring.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, interesting. Well, I've always got. I think I have always have some coming in, so I have to watch for other signs like robbing, etc. And Jace brought up this question, and then Gigi I think has a question too. Um, when I put my feeder or entrance feeder on my hive, other bees rob my hive. That's a like robbing is a sign of dearth. Let's talk about that for just a minute. Bracken, what's your experience with entrance feeders? I use entrance feeders as well, so I've seen certain things. Bracken, any thoughts on Jace's question there or comment?
Um, yeah, I don't use them for that purpose. I feed at the top. I use buckets. I use 1 gallon buckets, and I feed from the top. I'll get a little bit of robbing around the top of the bucket a little bit, like if it seeps around the edges, I'll have bees try to get to it, but they can't get in. They don't go in the actual colony. It draws that pressure up to the top of the box where they can defend it a little better. It's away from the entrance. Um, yeah, I used those when I very first started, and for the sake of changing them out every, I don't know, when I was doing it when I started, they were sucking those quart jars down pretty dang fast. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to put a bucket up there and make it last longer. So that's actually why I went to the bucket, not necessarily because of robbing, but I do notice less pressure on the entrance when I feed from the top.
Yeah,
Right.
I get. I do the. I'll do the entrance feeders. I haven't fed a lot in July. Maybe I should, but I see with my hives, robbing is happening. The wasps are all over. Like there's like that's a sign for me that they're out scavenging. But Jace, what you're experiencing there, like it's just easier access to free food. Like DC says there, they're just looking for free food, and it's easier
Maybe put
access.
your, if you're going to use an entrance feeder, what you could do is put your entrance feeder on the far side as far as you can over, then put a piece of wood across and put your entrance clear over here with a little entrance. So if your box is sitting like this, put your hive feeder over here, put a, what do they call those? The bars?
Just an entrance reducer.
Yeah, an
Yeah,
entrance reducer. Take that, block that up. So they're not, what I don't think you want is the entrance feeder right here and the entrance right here, because then they're just going right in and it's super easy for them. If you put it over here, the entrance over here, and this is all sealed up, they might not rob as much because they'll be able to defend over here a little bit better and keep that. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right.
So that'll help. If it's a strong hive like Jace, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it's a strong hive, there's going to be robbing no matter what. If it's a newer hive, like this is your first year, you may consider an entrance reducer or feed them differently.
What's up, Grayson?
Is Grayson in the house? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Popped in.
We got a good crew. We got a good crew here.
Good old Alabama.
I saw somebody
down there. So this is fun fact here. I sent a rain report to Bruce today. Bruce's bees for June. I looked up on the National Weather Report for rain. Bruce, it's called the Tallahassee area. It covers that northern part of Florida and Alabama. That's what the weather, or that's what the that's the area they call it. It's called the Tallahassee area, but it covers Bruce's area. They got 10.37 inches of rain in June. So 10 inches of rain in June. Ours, it's called the Salt Lake area. It covered from about Salt Lake north. So that covers me, but it says the Salt Lake area. We got 0.16 of an inch of rain.
We have not had rain really since beginning of May in Utah.
Yeah, I think that was the last storm we had was the beginning of May.
Like everybody pause for a second. People in Vermont and Alabama, whatever. Imagine beekeeping without having rain in May, June, like 2.5 months.
And if you do, it's only 0.16 of an inch.
Yeah, you're just dirtying your windshield on your car.
You got more than I did in June.
I ought to look up your area.
I have a rain gauge outside, and my rain gauge says 0.03.
0. I wonder what the national... Yeah, because the national weather area covers a fairly large...
Yeah, they do.
They don't... Yeah, yours is probably... That's crazy.
Yeah, what you see on Glade's background there is true. So Glade is from where I'm from. So I grew up in Roosevelt in the Uinta Basin out there, and it is dry, like dry. And I think irrigation is like they're done for the year. Like there's no more.
Yeah, they're probably gonna finish out. We measure things in alfalfa crop. So they've done first cutting. Second cutting's happening right now, and are they going to get a third cutting? I don't know. If we get a little bit of rain, maybe. Probably not.
Yeah, if you don't get rain, I doubt it. But
the reservoirs, I haven't looked at the ones like Sandwash around here, but the one just north of Vernal, it still has some water in it, so I think they'll probably get one more go round.
So we've got Gigi had a question earlier and want your guys' thoughts on this. It's not related to July beekeeping necessarily, but it might be. So Gigi says, I've been visiting with family in Michigan, and now I'm in Florida helping my daughter move. I've been away for 2 weeks. What should I be looking for with my bees when I get back? Mississippi is my location. You have any thoughts on that one, Bracken?
Where's she at?
She's Mississippi.
Mississippi?
Yeah, she drove about 4 or 5 hours to get down to Bruce's when we were there.
I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you got flow going on, 2 weeks is plenty of time for them to plug out. I don't know.
I'd be watching that brood nest area. I'd be pulling up a couple of frames out of that brood nest area and see if they're backfilling it with nectar.
Yeah.
You got to watch the space.
And then the opposite end of that is I'd be pulling a couple of frames to make sure they do have some honey that they've been putting around the outsides. If not, then you may need to be feeding.
Yeah, I don't know if we had discussed yet. July is kind of the prep for winter, and like this is when you need to start getting your mite. Make sure your mites are down. Make sure they have the food. You're prepping now for the future. If your bees aren't up to par now, you're probably not going to get them through the winter.
How do you handle that though, Bracken? With like, if you're like me, I'm not pulling my supers. I might pull them in August, but I'm probably not pulling them until Labor Day. So how do you handle feeding, and it might be too hot for some types of mite treatment, but just on the feeding area, like, is there any consideration if you still got all your supers? Like Bruce, we went and did honey extraction. He can get into all the stuff now. What about those that haven't extracted yet?
I don't harvest until September, um, or Labor Day. When's Labor Day?
Yeah, 1st of
Yep.
September.
Yeah,
First,
yeah. So I don't pull my supers till then. So I don't do any feeding or any type. I mean, I spot check, make sure that they're, if I have a single brood or a single colony that's not heavy, I might splash a little something at them. But for the most part, I'm not doing any type of feeding. But as soon as I pull those supers in September, I just pound them with syrup, and I give them. I make sure they have room. I will leave a couple honey frames down on the sides. I'll if they don't have any down in the brood chamber, because I do a lot of the single brood management, I'll take some from the super and just drop a couple on each side. And then I just pump syrup in there, and I'm checking mites right now, so I'm doing washes, making sure those are good, and then as soon as the supers come off, I'll put more treatments on and hit them with oxalic acid for multiple, weekends in a row.
and but I think people need to realize your goal is you're going to get your bees ready to go to almonds. So
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of
that's the
that's
other
part
thing.
of that single brood management. My bees don't go anywhere, and Jed's bees aren't going anywhere. I don't know. Are you going to send your bees to almonds, Jed?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either. So my
Yeah, that is.
strategy is similar but a little different. So I'm going to leave a full. Uh, I use mediums, and I use 2 mediums for my brood chamber during the summer. But for winter, they get 3 mediums, and the third medium is already full of honey right now. It's ready to go.
And
And
you say you leave that on through.
I'll leave that on. I'll pull my queen excluder out and leave that third super. You can kind of see in the hive right here, the the blue box in the middle, that's my honey super. The yellow boxes, so this yellow box up here on top, that one's going to stay with the hive all winter, and it's already full of honey. I let them fill that one up very first, and then that will stay with the hive all winter. And then, but I'm still going to do what Bracken does. Soon as I pull my honey supers, I'm going to treat, and I'm going to push the syrup on them so that during the rest of this dearth, because we're not getting anything from August, September, October. There's nothing coming in. It's still warm enough for the bees to fly, but there's nothing coming in. So they're burning through stores, but nobody's refilling the gas tank here. And so I'm feeding them not to store honey so much or store syrup, but I'm feeding them just to get them through to winter, to where they really start to shut down and and go into winter with all their honey stores intact. I don't want them to burn through their honey stores during this dearth.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you could have full supers, and you get in a dearth and they could lighten up in a hurry. There.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick deviation, although it's related, from the July beekeeping. And DC's got this question here: do you think that running single brood management might help with mite levels because you're managing frames more often and pulling brood out to balance? You do singles, Bracken. What are your thoughts on that? You ever thought about it that way?
Yeah, a little. I think of it more of like, I think it's easier to treat for mites because I can use less. I don't put apivar strips up through the top boxes. I just put them in one single deep, or my oxalic acid when I vapor them. I mean, I'm vaporizing
One,
usually just a single box, not, I do once in a while I'll do two boxes. But as far as making them, I don't know. I don't know. I bet the mites are probably the same. Because there's just as much. Well, I don't know. Is there just as much brood in a single brood management as there is double deep? Because what I've noticed is in a double deep, you've got what, 3 or 4 frames of solid brood in the middle, and then you kind of get pollen, honey. Well, in a single brood management, it's usually just 10 frames of brood, maybe a little bit of pollen and nectar on the sides. But as far as area on the brood nest, I've never really thought of that. I don't know. Is there
I'm
more
I'm where
brood
you are.
in brood management than there is a double deep?
Yeah, I think the way I think about it is the same. I think it's easier to treat, um, not substantially, like it's all relative,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's more brood in the double deep, because in my singles the brood, they're feeling it all the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah, I would agree. Uh,
Yeah.
The
No,
queen
I
can only
think
lay so much a day, you know,
right.
and if you just do the if you do the math, I'm a math guy. My background's accounting, so I do numbers all day long. Um, but let's say that queen lays 2,000 eggs a day, right? Well, 2,000 eggs a day takes 21 days for those eggs to go from an egg to an adult bee emerging out of the cell. So in 21 days, she's going to lay 42,000 eggs. Yeah, in the span of 21 days, she's going to lay 42,000 eggs. I think I said that wrong, but um, so she needs 42,000 cells for brood at all times, right? Well, if you're looking at a deep frame, I think they figure about 3,500 cells per side of a deep frame. So if she laid the entire frame, didn't miss a cell, edge to edge, top to bottom, we're talking 7,000 cells on one deep frame, 3,500 on each side. So now you need what, 6 frames? You need 6 frames of space for her to lay up. Well, you got 10 frames in the box. She's got another 4 frames to still lay in. So is there enough space in a single brood chamber to do that? Sure. Sure. She's got more like 70,000 cells in one box, and she's only using 42,000 at a time. So you've got plenty of room. And you can play with the numbers on that. You know, if you're only laying 1,500 eggs a day, or if you think you've got this super duper stellar queen that can outlay everything else and she's laying 2,500 eggs a day, still do the math. There's plenty of room in that single chamber. You just have to manage it a little different. Like Bracken says, you got to do a little. Your goals are a little different, and you just have to manage it a little different. I run 2 mediums for my brood area, and that's a little bit more than a single. 3 mediums is essentially the same volume of space as 2 deep. So for winter, I'm essentially overwintering in 2 deep. But for summer, I'm pushing them down just a little bit and kind of confining that queen down to 2 boxes, which is still plenty of room for her to lay. She's got ample room to do, but I find it easier when I go to find that queen. I've only got 2 boxes to look through instead of 3 boxes to look through.
yeah, that's why I like the single. I like saving the equipment on the single brood management, and I like the um, a little bit ease of management ease of use. I was a couple weeks ago. I was in one of my hives, and I had two frames in that bottom in the brood box that were just full of nectar. Just both of them were full of nectar, which I hate to see in the single. I don't know what you guys think about this. I hate to see that in with the single brood management because I want to make sure she has space. So all I did, like all that was in it was nectar. That just tells me they're out of space. So I added a super and I moved those two frames up and I added two frames of drawn comb in the bottom, and that like there was a something about that made me feel good because I knew she had I don't know Glade's math, but I knew she had what 14,000 more cells that she could lay in at that point. So anyway, easy to manage. It's fun. Great thoughts and questions, DC. Awesome
Do
conversation.
you overwinter in singles, Jed?
I haven't. I did singles last year, and after I took the supers off, I got nervous because I was like, I just took 5 deep supers or 3 deep supers or 4 deep supers off of these hives, and I'm like, where are they going to go? So I put another deep on there, and so I overwintered with 2, and then this spring I went back to 1. What do you think about that? Should I not worry about the space after I remove the supers? Like I didn't know what to do.
I'm still trying to figure that one out myself.
Because they've got tons of bees. When I take these supers off, it's a huge hive.
And there's not room for everybody inside. And so they beard on the outside. So, I've listened to some of these other guys and they're saying, well, give them something to do. So throw an empty box of foundation on them and feed them and let them draw comb for you. And I'm like, will they do that? They don't generally want to draw comb during a dearth.
Not at that point. Well, you would be feeding them like crazy at that point.
Right.
So maybe you do. I might try that strategy.
Right. So I just haven't got brave enough to try it myself.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the July beekeeping. So we're running out of time really quickly. Heat and water challenges like that's where we're at right now. So Utah's super hot. It's dry. We all live in different areas. My strategy is going to be different. Yeah. So how do you handle Utah's summer heat that may be applicable to other areas, Bracken?
I let the bees figure it out.
That's the answer.
I don't put any shade over them. I don't put any water out. I mean, obviously, I'm around a farm and there's a river. The river's right here close. So I don't worry about water. I never have. I never thought, oh man, I need to go water my bees. Maybe if you were out in I don't know how close. Do you got any ponds of water anywhere near you, Glade? Or streams? Or
most of my yards, one yard's got a little ditch that's got irrigation water in it, and so some farmers are always calling for water, so it's got water in it most of the time.
And in my opinion, I'm not an expert. I know some people set little waters out for their bees and stuff, and that's great. But they find their own water if they need it. I think
they do.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I don't think you need to water your bees. I just don't personally water my bees and I've never put shade over them. It's 103 degrees out there right now, and they're sitting in a dirt field. So they're
interestingly enough, this spring at my house here, I usually have a bunch of nukes here at the house, and I thought, well, I wonder if they'll just take some water at all. So I got out of the chicken water and filled the bottom of the chicken water with rocks and set it out. And those bees just hammered it. And this was April, May, where, a time of the year when there's generally pretty much water anywhere around here. I mean, we usually have plenty of water just in the ditches and, and whatnot. But they just hammered it. And I, 2 or 3, it's probably a 3-gallon chicken water. And 2 days later, it's empty. And I refilled it.
Was it
And
tap water?
Just regular tap water.
I wonder
And
if it had like a chlorine in it or something that they were drawn to.
could be, but
Are bees drawn to chlorine?
oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I wonder if you were to do that. That's what you ought to try. Glade, try that. Take one and fill it full of tap water, and then take another one and fill it full of ditch water.
And I have that because I have irrigation water here at the house.
Yeah, so put irrigation water. I'm curious to see if they would.
If they
You know
would
what I
take,
mean?
yeah.
Which one are they going to draw, or what? Because if they're drawing both equally the same, oh, maybe it is beneficial to feed them
Right.
or to water them. But if they're drawing the chlorine one and not touching the other one, I wonder if it's because of the chlorine. You know what I mean? It's just a thought.
Yeah.
So the other day, I had my neighbor knock on the door, came over, and they said, "We just put a pool out in our backyard, just one of those bought on Facebook Marketplace above the ground pools, like no big deal." And she said, "It is full of bees. We got bees everywhere on it." And I'm a little bit nervous. My neighbors have been great, but I'm a little bit nervous because I'm thinking, man, I don't want somebody complaining. I don't want the city to come by and tell me to get rid of hives. So I walk over there and they've got toys all, and I can see what she's saying. Like, they don't want her kid. She doesn't want, they got 3 or 4 kids and there's bees everywhere. And they had put chlorine in it, which is why I asked that question. And they had, the bees couldn't land in there because it was steep on the sides other than the toys. So they had these noodles and things floating around. There were bees all over them and they didn't know what to do. So I just grabbed the toys and just moved them out. And within a little bit, the bees were gone because they couldn't land. So I just said, like, that's the strategy. Like, just move your toys out when they're done playing, because they weren't having it, and there would be bees all over in that. But I don't put out water either, Bracken. But my neighbors, because of my situation here, they love, other than the pool situation, they love the bees. I have several neighbors that put out water for the bees, and they go through it. And it's probably evaporating quite a bit, like 90, 95 degrees, it's evaporating. But I've got a neighbor across the street that they put out three kind of rock, whatever, what I call them, pools,
bird
baths, and they're in there all day. And then I've got a neighbor down the street, and the neighbors love it, and the bees are in there all the time. But to your point, Bracken, if they didn't do that, somebody, at least in my area, somebody's always got a leaky sprinkler, a leaky hose, leaky faucet, and they're on that stuff. But they're looking for water right now for sure.
Yeah, they are. And I have a neighbor here that's got a pool, and that's part of the reason I started putting some water out, just to see if I could train my bees not to go to their pool,
derail them,
and kind of get them off that a little bit. And then the neighbor didn't fill up their pool with water this year, so I'm like, well, okay, well, that wasn't.
There you go, the legend. Yeah, salt block.
So what is that going to do, Bracken? Like Farmer Bracken, what's the salt block going to do in the water?
Oh, the bees will. I bet they'd go to it like crazy with that salt.
Yeah. They like the mineral content.
Yeah, yep. Now that he says that, Charlie, I've seen them on like the mineral blocks that we put out for the horses and stuff. Like, I've seen the bees on that. Well, granted, there's molasses in it too, so I didn't think of that till just now. So yeah, they're just lapping sugar. And let's see, what does it say? They love these new salt pools.
That's cool. That's a good insight. That's a good insight, Charlie. Now
you're in a good spot to do it. Jed, you ought to try that. That'd be an interesting thing to see.
So what do? Put out a pool and then put a little salt block in it?
Oh, well, I was talking about my thing with Glade. Like, find some ditch water,
chlorine and the ditch water,
and tap water. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see what they do now, just because I'm curious.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we're coming up on time. There's so much we could go over, like what hive inspections look like, what to watch out for. Um, let's kind of start wrapping before we do the giveaway with the tool here, and maybe people can start doing that. Put in Hive tool in the chat. So we've got this Hive tool that we're hashtag Hive tool, giving that away. Hashtag Hive tool. I still haven't sent the Hive tool that Eddie won to him. I never got his address in my email, but DC got the gloves. Sent him a new set of gloves. Sounds like one of the sizes is a little bit smaller than the other, or maybe one of his hands is bigger than the other. Anyway, hashtag Hive tool, and I'll put those into the wheel of names. But let's end with this. Like, tell us, Glade. Let's start with you. What you got coming up this next week in the bee yards?
Actually, tomorrow my schedule got changed for various reasons, but tomorrow I'm going to go pull. I did one more round of queen grafts, and hopefully they turned out this time. The last round didn't turn out so well, but I'm going to do. I did one more round. Hopefully I've got some queens out there, and I'm going to be dropping those queen cells in some nukes and into some of my hives that just have struggled all summer long. I'm going to requeen those. I think that should be, for me, my strategy for July is get my queens right. That's, if I get my queens right now, then August will be about middle of August is when I pull my honey. And as soon as I get my honey pulled, then I'm starting to do treatments and get them, make sure they're heavy enough for winter. So that's pretty much what I'm focusing on right now. Get my queens all set up, make sure I've got good queens in my hives, and then I'll be pulling honey supers next month. Just about this time next month is when I'll pull mine.
You're going to do them in August, huh?
Yeah, I do mine a little bit earlier. Like I said, we're about 3 weeks later than you guys out there on the Wasatch Front in the spring, but we're about 3 weeks earlier than you guys are for winter. So we start hitting frost and things sooner than you do. We're
that
higher.
Would be a good move, because if you're in a dearth, they're just eating that honey anyway. Like, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. I might try that this year. I don't know. We'll see how time plays out.
So I like to get my honey off before it's too late. Most of the beekeepers in Utah, that's kind of the rule, pull by Labor Day. And I like to do mine a couple of weeks ahead of that, just because my season's a little shorter than Wasatch Front. And I need to start just a little bit sooner than you guys do for mite treatments.
Okay. Good. What do you got, Bracken?
Yeah, that's pretty spot on with what Glade said. I like to make sure the queens are good. I should have grafted another round of queens, and I should have tried again. But I didn't so well. I got some nukes that are still doing pretty. They're doing pretty decent. They're actually doing really good. So I'm actually going to take them and drop them into some of my weaker hives. Just find the queen. If the queen is doing bad, pinch her, take the nuke, drop it right in the center of the box. Where's the Granado from?
That's what I'm at. Like, I want to hear where
Granado.
with a name like Granado, I'm like, Granado must be in like the Dominican Republic or something like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, then I'm gonna make sure that the boxes are good. Make sure everything's, because there is a few alfalfa fields around here that are blooming pretty good, and up on the mountain, there's a couple fields that are blooming really well. So I got to check them, make sure that they don't need any more room. And mites, just watch for mites. I really watch my mites right now and do more. I don't test every hive. I usually test 1 or 2 per pallet, and then just kind of see. But if I'm treating one pallet, I'm treating everything. You know what I mean? I don't just spot treat necessarily. I mean, I might if there's one that's really heavy or something that I catch, but I'm a Texan Hispanic.
Well, like, listen, I'm a little bit hearing that Granado's from West Texas. I was chuckling to myself because uh, I've got some homies out there, Odessa, San Angelo, Lubbock. We know that he was probably laughing at us when we were talking about the dryness and the heat that we have.
Probably.
It's nothing compared to what Granado's got out there, and the bees do fine. To your point, Bracken, like they can handle it. San Angelo, okay, all right. The wing stop. Go to the wing stop in San Angelo, Granado. My best friend Douglas Williams owns it. The wing stop in San Angelo. But that's some heat out there in West Texas. I don't think San Angelo got hit with that flooding, right? They probably got some rain, but they didn't get. You guys saw all that flooding in the Austin area. Sad.
Yeah, terrible.
All right. I am not military, Granado, but I know that a lot of people from Granado are, or from San Angelo are.
This guy has some military blood in him.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, somebody here's got military.
I was never around or in Texas.
I bet Granado probably has a military background, but Bracken's been around the block a little bit. All right, gentlemen, should we wrap? Should we do a little drawing?
Do a giveaway.
It's a jarhead.
Jarhead.
You guys can't talk smack on him, but I can. It's okay.
It's fair.
Thanks for your service, man. Marines are awesome. I had a few Marine buddies in airborne school, and quick story while he's on here real fast. Their PCs, I don't know what your cover. They would starch them, and man, their cover always looked better than mine. So I talked to my buddy and I told him, I says, "Hey man, take my hat or my cover and do what you do to yours." He took it back to his barracks, and I guess one of his drill instructors found the Army camo in his back, and they smoked the shit out of him. They made him do push-ups and sit-ups, and because he had Army stuff. And needless to say, I got my cover back, and it looked pristine. He starched that thing, and it was like wearing a piece of cardboard. That reminded me of my Marine buddy. He was a good dude. Good people. Good times.
Yeah, that's a great story. Hey everybody. Grayson reminded me, hit the like button. That helps us, and go subscribe to all of us if you haven't. Utah Bee Man, Glade puts out great content. Bracken, his content is all of our content's a little bit different. Bracken, he's always good for some education and a laugh. His video, this last video that Bracken put out about you had a drone layer, and so he kind of went through what he did to handle that, which I thought was pretty cool. I was wondering when you first discovered the drone layer, I was like, how's he going to handle that? Like, I want to see a video of what you're going to do about it. So you'll have to let us know how that works.
Yeah, I'll check them this week, see how they look.
Was it a drone laying queen or just a laying worker?
Laying worker, sorry.
Laying worker.
Yeah, you had a bunch of eggs in the in the cells.
Yeah, I didn't catch what you'd said on your video. I watched the video. It's a good video.
Yeah,
I think I might have. Now that you say that, I think I might have said queen, but it was a laying worker.
Laying worker.
Yeah. That's what I assumed it was.
Yeah.
What?
Where you didn't find the queen, because I watched you and I'm like, he didn't even look for the queen. So I'm like, oh, it's a laying worker.
Yeah.
But you did exactly what I would have done too. Shake him out, put another hive right in his spot.
Yep.
So go subscribe to Bracken, Barker's Bees and Honey. Bracken's Big Time, and then if you're up for it, go subscribe to Jed's Beekeeping. Hey, next week, I think it's your turn, Bracken. Are we gonna do your channel next week?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about what we want to do. Maybe we still need to bring on. I really want to get on Keith at how do you say it? Like Keith
Keith
Spillman, the halfway
Spillman.
half tracks and honeybees.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
We maybe invite him or somebody else to come out, but we'll have a good time. We'll do that in a week. Let's get spinning this wheel, should we? Okay,
Yep.
Who are your guesses?
I'm gonna go. Hopefully, our old Marine Corps buddy here. Did he do
Granado?
it? I don't know if he did it.
Yeah, he did it. I got him on there.
All right, I'm gonna shoot for him.
GG's getting it.
GG.
Let's say Granado here.
Okay, we got the Hive tool. Like, I'll give you so hashtag Hive tool. If you don't see yourself on there, put your name in. We haven't had somebody that won twice. Grayson almost won twice, but then he didn't. But hashtag Hive tool. I'm gonna say Granado as well. I've picked him 3 weeks in a row, so maybe I'm bad luck, but Bracken's good luck. So okay, here we go. Jack and Danae. So Jack and Danae's a 2-time winner. I think we sent them some gloves before. Sweet Harlan, I had you on there, and I didn't have Eddie on there.
Next time you be on there twice, Eddie.
Yeah, that's right. So Jack and Danae, we got your Hive tool headed your way to Wyoming. You deserve it. Thanks for being faithful.
We got to start stealing more people from that other channel because soon everybody on here is we're just gonna start rotating. Just send them every week.
Hey, like if maybe we do a thing, like if you tell us that you brought somebody on to our live stream with you, you get to put your name in 3 times.
Yeah, there you go.
Just tell us, you get in 3 times.
Everybody who brings somebody from what's his name's chat gets 3 chances.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, everybody, super fun tonight. Any closing thoughts, Glade, Bracken?
Nope. Happy beekeeping this week.
Get out and check those bees.
That's right. Appreciate everybody. See you next week.
Okay.
See ya.
Night.